Hello, and welcome back to another draft player analysis video. Today, I will be going over. Wow, just gotta admire that kickoff right there.
That return's good for about 12.
Excuse me. Today, I will be going over Noah Spence. Noah Spence, defensive end, Eastern Kentucky University. So, Noah Spence, if you don't know about him, he was a starter at Ohio State, was one of the best defensive ends in the country before he started failing drug tests left and right. And then he was banned from the entire Big Ten Conference. Not just Ohio State, the entire conference. That's Penn State, Iowa, Purdue, all of those schools he cannot go to. So he transferred to Eastern Kentucky and had a solid season this year. Decided he doesn't want to go to Eastern Kentucky anymore, so he declared for the draft. And a lot of people are saying that Ohio State, basically has one extra player because Noah Spence was the Ohio State guy before he had to be removed from the team. So basically, there's an extra Ohio State defensive end in this year's draft. So finding the stats for him was kind of a bitch because they only had his Ohio State ones and his Eastern Kentucky ones separately. There was no combined career stats for him. So I had to do a little bit of math. So these might not be 100% accurate. So stats, 125 career tackles, 37 and 1/2 tackle for a loss, 20 sacks, and 4 forced fumbles. Again, he was a 2-year starter at Ohio State, and then he had to transfer to Eastern Kentucky. That's all I can really say about him other than, my pros and cons. He was the Ohio Valley Conference Co-Defensive Player of the Year. I'm pretty sure that was at Eastern Kentucky. That might have just been high school, and I'm just an idiot. Excuse me. But overall, Noah Spence has immense talent. He honestly would probably be the most talented defensive end in this class, if not for all the issues he has off the field. So, that being said, let's hop into the pros and cons. My first pro is he's quick off the edge. He has really good burst coming around the corner. And just overall, he has a really good speed coming off that edge. He can run around the guy pretty easily. Ooh, that was a closey. Overall, he has that speed and the agility to get right around the guy without having to truly engage him, and try and make a man miss or anything. It's going to be tough playing with Mark Sanchez. I'll say that right now.
Their offense onto the field. It wasn't a very productive possession for them last time out, partner. They ended up punting.
Next, his footwork. He has really good footwork, when he's coming around the edge. That kind of contributes to how quick he is coming off the edge. But I think overall he has really good footwork. And that helps him stay upright and that gives him good balance when he's coming around that edge. So again, another huge, that's another thing you really want in a defensive end, whether it be a stand-up guy or a hand-in-the-dirt defensive end.
Let's see if they have a play up their sleeve that can get them in the end zone.
And lastly, I have leverage. He knows how to properly use his body to get under a defender and around them. Again, his speed, but he also knows how to use leverage to his advantage, how to get under and around. And with his height, I feel like his leverage is probably a bit better mostly because he is technically a little undersized.
Take advantage of that. He tries for the big play. What happens?
You know, he's 6'2", 6'3", so he technically is a little undersized. But I think that helps him. It helps him get under, you know, offensive tackles. Then they kind of have to block down at them if they're a bit taller guys.
The kick is good.
Sorry.
Setting the tone here early in the second. They take the lead
Got all
with
this
this field goal.
mucus in my
That
throat.
was a good job by the offense. They overcame. They had some adversity in
But
that drive, but they still made it.
I think his leverage,
They give
he
themselves
uses it
3
well,
points and put 'em on the
and he uses it
Fowler's
to his advantage
down
greatly.
at the 40.
And I have to
And the
plug my
illegal
controller in,
block
so
in
let
the
me
back is gonna
get
move
close to
this
my
team
PlayStation
back.
here.
Yeah, you know, Jim, the rule of thumb here is if you can read the name on the back of the
Down.
jersey, don't block it.
All right.
The Broncos come to the line with a bunch set.
All right, so those are my pros. I think overall, if he was to stay clean, he probably would be my number 3, maybe number 2 defensive end in this class.
Nice job that time of the tight end makes the catch.
But that's the point. He has to stay clean off the field.
Remember,
And that's my
they're
first major
usually the
con.
closest
Drug/off the field issues.
gets in trouble is going to look for the tight end.
Now, I don't know how true this is, but on the website I did for my, some of my research, someone said that they were a former classmate of Noah Spence. I know this probably is bullshit, but if it's true, it's extremely interesting. Saying the kid was a douchebag, saying he was at parties all the time and the kid was buying drugs left and right at those parties. Things like that. He knew the dealers that sold to the kid and all this stuff. And just that Noah Spence overall was a douchebag. The teachers were passing him on purpose so, they can actually, my God, Mark Sanchez. Teachers were passing him on purpose so he can continue to play. All of that stuff. So, again, if that's true, that's terrible that he's a complete another idiot off the field. So if he even wants to sniff NFL success, he has to stay clean. I mean, they just announced Josh Gordon. This is his 3rd offense. He has to stay clean for 111 days, and then he could be reinstated to the NFL. Now, I don't know how often they're going to drug test him, but I would assume it's going to be pretty often if they're doing it for 100 days. I'm assuming they're going to probably test him like once every week, once every 2 weeks. So, I think that if he does not stay clean off the field and, doesn't fail if he starts failing drug tests, this guy will be a burnout. And that's why I think he is probably the biggest risk-reward player in this draft class. Because if he stays clean, he can be arguably the best defensive end in this class and one of the best defensive players in this class. But if he doesn't clean up his act, he will be a bust and he'll be out of the league in 3 years. So, I think overall that's the biggest con with this guy, but I have a couple other small things that I think he needs to fix. One of them isn't really. One of these is less. One of them's mechanical, and one of them is something he can't fix. First, his arms are kind of short. Again, he needs, once he gets locked onto a guy, if a tackle has a bit longer arms than him, he's going to find it hard to break away from that tackle because of how short his arms are. He can't engage them properly and all those things. So I think once he gets locked onto with a blocker, he's going to have a hard time, breaking away from that tackle.
Percentage 70% on the day. Got a big lane, and now Rodgers.
And lastly, I just think that he can benefit from just having a bit more bulk.
And before you're going to get hit, slide in there like you're going to second.
I think he can benefit from having a bit more bulk, a bit more strength.
From the gun,
I think that some of the bigger tackles and even guards, if he has to rush inside, will push him around if he doesn't put on that extra bulk and extra strength.
Stepping up to the line at the
So I think he has to add maybe 10 pounds of strength, muscle, all those things. But overall, I think that Noah Spence is an overall good prospect. He just has to stay clean, and he can't continue to make stupid decisions off the field. So, I mean, it's just all on that. If he can't stay clean, he'll be out of the league in 2-3 years. If he can, I think he'll have a great long NFL career, and he'll probably be one of the best defensive players to come out of his draft class.
And he's in for the touchdown.
That being said, I have him ranked as a mid to late first-round prospect. Again, if the teams don't like him, you know, his off-the-field issues, that's a whole thing. I'm just basing this off of talent. I only skipped over one team that has a defensive end need. So, again, we'll have to see. But my first team of interest is the Detroit Lions. And again, I'm basing most of these off of just pure talent. So I think that Detroit will definitely take a shot on this guy and line him up across from Ziggy Ansah. And again, those two, if he stays in the league, could be an incredible tandem for as long as they can keep those two on the roster. Next, I have Atlanta. Again, it's all about is if Atlanta really thinks that they can keep this kid clean and away from drugs. And if he can, I think Atlanta can definitely take an opportunity on him. Oh, my God. Dude, I barely skimmed that shit, and it goes, like, ungodly wide left.
Hyde's tackled down at the 24. We'll switch sides and
But
break as the first half
Atlanta needs offensive, a defensive line. They need pass rush. So I think that he can definitely step in there and be an instant starter. Next is Buffalo. I think Rex Ryan would definitely take this kid in a heartbeat. Rex Ryan, if he was making all the decisions, would take this kid in a heartbeat, and he'd throw him in the starting lineup day one. But the thing is, Rex Ryan isn't, making every single decision. So I think that the front office will probably steer away from him and go with the more off the field, friendly, clean guy in Kevin Dodd. That's currently where I have him going. I'm uploading that video as I am recording this one. But again, if Rex Ryan really can get his influence in there, I think Buffalo will take this guy in a heartbeat. Next is the New York Jets. Again, this is just off of pure talent, and I think that Todd Bowles needs a great defensive end. Athletic guy, who can be a building block for the future. I think Noah Spence could be a guy like that. Could is the key word here. But, again, with most of these other guys, we'll just have to see. Next, I have Houston. I completely skip over Washington. I feel like Washington is the kind of team that's not going to want to deal with a guy who can be a distraction off the field. So I just completely skip over Washington, go right to Houston. And again, I think if any team really wants to pick this guy off of just pure talent, it will be Houston. But again, big city, Texas, easy ways for him to be stupid off the field. So I think that if Houston drafts him, they definitely need to keep an eye on him 24/7 and just not let him be an idiot. Have J.J. Watt take him under his wing. I don't know. Something though. Next is Seattle. Seattle, again, like Rex Ryan, is a team that really doesn't care about, their image. When, Richard Sherman's out there talking shit every play, or was, I guess. They're the kind of guys, or Seattle's the kind of team that's going to prioritize talent over issues. So I think that if they really want a defensive end to line up across from Cliff Averill, he is definitely a guy they can take,
Climbs the ladder and has
and a guy that can potentially be a great
They got
player.
momentum on their side right now. They are making
Next, I have Kansas City.
That was a nice play.
Again, Kansas City, not really the most interesting city, so I feel like it'd be harder for him to be an idiot in a town like Kansas City in the middle of the country pretty much, or down south, I don't really know. But it's just all about, I think it's all about location for this guy. Because I think if he goes to a place where he can, easily be stupid and do dumb things, he'll burn out immediately. So I think that Kansas City would be a nice fit for him. It's the biggest city, I think, in the state. So we will see. And overall, they just need more help on the pass rush edge. Justin Houston is, he's a bit injury prone. He hasn't been able to stay healthy last season. But when he's healthy, he's probably the best outside linebacker or pass rushing outside linebacker in the NFL. But I think they just need an extra guy. They just need an extra guy on the pass rushing edge that can be, an issue for teams if Justin Houston's hurt.
Show some courage. Don't worry about what's in front of you. The quarterback will take care of that.
And next I have the Carolina Panthers. Again, they have to find an eventual replacement for Charles Johnson. Until that moment, they can probably stick him on the other side, learn from Charles Johnson, let Johnson take him under his wing, and hopefully he won't, Again, this is all just based on the fact that if he really, as long as he can just stay clean. I think that's the biggest thing. But again, Charles Johnson can take him under his wing. He can eventually replace him. And again, I think Carolina will continue to stack up one of the best defenses in the game. And last, I don't think he'll drop out of first round. I'd be a little surprised if he did. But I think the last team, is the Denver Broncos. Denver needs to replace Malik Jackson. They can get a guy, Noah Spence, who can rush the passer. All they have to do is teach him how to play to run a little bit better. On the field-wise, that's his biggest issue, I think, is he just has to learn how to play to run a bit better. And overall, I think that if he stays clean, he is a mostly upside talent. And just overall, I think that he's definitely a first-round talent. It's all about how teams want him to represent them. So overall, though, I believe that with the 31st overall pick and the last pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos, well, not the last pick of the first round. I should probably specify that. The last pick of the first round, the Denver Broncos will select Noah Spence, defensive end, Eastern Kentucky University. I keep wanting to say Western Kentucky. My reasoning, again, Noah Spence is one of the most talented, defensive players in this draft class. He just needs to stay clean. I think that Denver's coaching staff, Wade Phillips, all of those guys can definitely have a big influence on a young guy who just needs to stay clean. I think Wade Phillips, they did things with Von Miller. Von Miller wasn't the smartest guy coming out of college. He had a bit of his off-the-field problems. He was suspended for a little while because of off-the-field issues. So I think that if any team in the NFL can keep this guy clean and, have him, develop into the player that he can be with no real off-the-field issues, I think Wade Phillips and the Denver Broncos coaching staff could be those guys. And that's why I think they'll be the team to take him. And overall, though, I just think that Denver's probably the best fit for him. Although it's the biggest city in Colorado, I believe. It's just going to be tough for him, I believe, to get, the stuff that he's really into. I think he got caught for ecstasy. So, I don't know. I don't really know much about Denver, but
you do that,
I feel like it's
you'll
a
catch 'em by
fucking, it's a
surprise.
weed smoking state
Crucial play here.
or city.
Down on the way.
God, Mark Sanchez is
Turn the
bad.
ball over on
But
downs. The Packers
again, no Spence, Denver Broncos. I think they'll replace Malik Jackson with a guy who has all the talent in this draft class and probably in the world, and just overall will try and keep this kid clean and keep him smart. So for now, oh yes, also, this is the end of my defensive ends. Prepare for the start of my linebackers as a whole. I'm not going to differentiate from inside and outside. I think there's only one inside backer that's really worth taking in the first round. The rest are outsides. So, prepare for Miles Jack after this one. So for now, this is J-Wax signing off.